awesome class.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Felicia. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. We get to play with fresh flowers today, so that's always exciting, especially for us. I think it's like 11 degrees outside, so something fresh and pretty is nice to have. First thing I want to show you is our different foams, because we are doing a fresh arrangement today, and you will use our WetFōM brick for the project today. But this arrangement could actually be done with drieds, and it can be done with silk florals also. So if you did want to try this project with dried flowers or fragile stemmed flowers, you would use our dry foam, and it's just a little more dense and it does not soak up water. This is our dry foam brick. And then we also have our FloraFōM brick. It's our green XPS foam. And this is a little more heavy duty. It'll take heavier stems. It'll take larger stems, larger silk stems, and it's a little better for outside. It'll hold up to wind and hold those stems in there a little more secure for you. So just some options if you wanted to use silks or drieds. But our WetFōM does soak up water. So today you're going to need a brick of WetFōM. One of our, it's called an Aquatainer. It's just a little disposable floral dish. They come in a 3-pack. We're just going to use one today. And you're going to need a container of water. This is just like a plastic shoebox. There's a gallon of water in there. When you're soaking your brick, you get flower food with your flowers. This flower food actually does just 1 quart. One packet does 1 quart of water. I have a gallon in here, so I'm going to put all 4 of these in the water to soak the brick. And when you're mixing your flower food, you want to use warm water, like bath water. And that's going to make sure that the flower food all mixes up and dissolves equally in the water. And you're putting it in the water so that when you soak your brick, this brick is going to soak up all that food. And the food is really important to the flowers. One, it gives them food. 2, it helps lower the pH in the water, because the fresh flowers like a lower pH in the water. It helps them uptake the water. It also has a bacteria, like something to help remove the bacteria in the water, because if your flowers suck up bacteria, they won't live as long. So it has something to take care of bacteria, and it also has something in it that helps the flowers take up the water. So there's a lot of good things in the flower food that you do want to use them. So the fun part, you're going to need what I used in the arrangement were 6 of the light pink roses. I did 6 of the brighter dark pink roses. I did 2 small bundles of mini carnations, a bundle of baby's breath, and then a bundle of some kind of green filler. This just happened to be what was at the grocery. And these are all grocery store flowers. They come in their own little plastic sleeves. And when you open them up, they'll each have a flower packet food with them. So let's open these up. Remember, this has to be like bath water, not hot bath water, because it can be too hot, but you want it nice and warm. The actual temperature is 100 to 110 degrees if you want to use a temperature or a thermometer. Just going to stir it up, make sure it's all dissolved. There's no granules on the bottom. it's nice and dispersed. And you'll want to use this even if you don't use WetFōM. If you're just putting your flowers in a vase, you'll want to use flower food in there also. All right. And then to soak our WetFōM, it's called float soak. So that's literally what you do. You just have to have a container that's deep enough that it can float or soak all the way down, and it has a little bit of room around it to float. So you're just going to lay it on top of the water and let it do its thing. Usually takes about a minute. And the reason that you're letting it float soak is what it's doing is it's pushing all the air up out of the brick as the water comes in the bottom. And that's making sure that every single little air pocket is filled with water, because of course you don't want your flowers to go into a dry spot in the brick. Now, if I was to push this down right now, it would look like it was soaked, but it would trap air in the middle of the brick. So you don't ever want to force it down in the water and think that you're getting it soaked. It just really has to just let it be. Kind of like watching water boil, right? So when you pull it out of there, you're gonna need something to put it on, because it's gonna drip a little bit when you cut it. So I just grabbed a piece of wax paper, piece of cellophane, a plastic tray, anything to set your brick on to cut it. So you can see it's totally soaked now. I'm just going to pick it up and just let it drip from one corner. It usually takes about 10 seconds or so, and then it'll stop dripping. And then you know that it's ready. Got one more thing I'm going to grab real quick.
While Dondi is grabbing her tool, go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from. And please let us know if you're crafting along with us today. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're not going to need this full brick. And if you wanted to save the little piece that you're not going to use, you could cut this before you soak it, and then you'd have that little piece left over. I just wanted to show you the full brick soaking. So to see how much you need, you're just going to set this on here, and you're just going to make a mark where it needs to be cut. And then you just slice this. I didn't tell you about my tools. So this is just a straight edge kitchen knife. If you do use a kitchen knife, just designate it as your WetFōM knife. Don't use it in the kitchen. It's now your WetFōM knife. Or these palette knives, just the paint palette knives, are really nice too, because they're super thin and they cut WetFōM really nice too. So it's up to you. And if you use a palette knife, you don't have to worry about the the knife making it back into your kitchen. And another thing when you're working with our WetFōM is just wash your hands after you handle it. So you're going to place it. I didn't get quite enough off there, and I did not make it straight. So you just want it to fit down in there nice, a little bit snug. Just about like that will work. And then another trick, so that you don't have this sharp edge, because a lot of times if you would go to insert your stem and you might come right out the other side on this little sharp edge. So what I like to do is they call beveling your brick. So all you're going to do is just cut these corners And it's just going to give you a bigger surface to insert into instead of trying to insert into that little corner. So the other tools we're going to need are some floral shears or some floral nippers, whichever. I think in the materials list, I have a pair of nippers in there from Michaels. And you'll need a some anchor tape or some water, I guess they call it waterproof tape, anchor tape. And all it is like little skinny duct tape, little skinny green duct tape is basically what it is. So all I'm going to do is just take 2 pieces of this. And you're just going to tape it under the lip of the container. And then across the top really tight. And that's just going to keep that wet foam's really heavy once it gets all that water in there. So you just want to keep it secured in the container. So if you're picking it up and moving it around, it's not going to topple out of there, especially when it has the weight of the flowers. It can be pretty heavy. So this just keeps it in the pot for you. And just those couple of pieces should do it. All right. And a towel is always handy when you're working with WetFōM. We are going to start, I'm going to say that our bright pink roses are our focal flowers, because that's kind of what your eye is going to get drawn to, that bright, fun pink. And when you get your flower, just look at it. If there's any little guard petals that need to come off that aren't very pretty, you can pull them off. You don't want to have any muffed up or black petals on your flowers. And rule of thumb for flower arranging is you want your height to be 1.5 times the height of your container. So our container is not very high. And because this is a centerpiece, I want it to be pretty low so that you can see over it across the table when you're sitting. So we're going to say we're going to put our first one right there. And then we're going to get our length of our arrangement, figure out how long we want it on the table. So we're going to cut this to about 6 inches. And don't worry about saving the rose leaves. I left them on here, but to use them as filler, they just don't last very long. So it's really not worth keeping them. So the beauty about WetFōM is you can take things and put them in any direction, and that'll hold them there. This other one to about 6 inches, 8 inches-ish. And you're going to put that in the opposite side. That foam's going to keep it right there like you want it. All right, let's see. We're going to need, I'm going to put one on either side. In the front and in the back of the arrangement. And you'd follow the same pattern if you're using dry foam, if you're using WetFōM. Another thing, dry foam or XPS, floral foam. Another thing when you're inserting into WetFōM is, so if I put this in and I don't really like where it's at. If it's, you know, I put it down too low, you can't just pull it up in that same hole and leave it there, because now there's a pocket underneath that stem that's not getting water. So the end of the stem always has to be in contact with the wet foam. So if you put it down too far and you don't like it there, you should really pull it back out of the foam and make a new hole for it. So because this is a centerpiece, we don't want to make it too wide this way, because then it'll be in somebody's plate. So we're going to cut these to about 3 inches, and they're going to stay pretty tight to the container on the side. Can you guys see the? All right, and because I did that on the front, I'm going to copy it and put it on the back so that it's symmetrical. And then we do have one left. And if I feel like there's a little spot that could use a little ink, I will throw that in after. So now we kind of have our shape. We have our height, we have our length, and we have our width. So after this, the only thing that we do is we start filling in with these other flowers. So I want this to kind of curve down. I'm actually going to put this in a little bit more. So I want this to dome down. So the first 2 that I'm going to add are these side flowers. You just want it so that it's a little bit shorter than that one, but it still follows that curve. Grab another pink one. Same thing on this side. Just keeping that nice curve. And then I don't want to make a triangle with the pink ones. So I'm going to add another one here, coming out this front corner. And I did that corner, so I'll add one on this corner. And then I have 2 more, so I'm going to stick those right in those other 2 corners. A little bit shorter. So these are about 4 inches, I'd say. And that's just going to fill out that front for you. Another one about 4 inches. And I didn't say to, when you're cutting these off, you're going to want to cut them like at a nice sharp angle. It helps them go into the foam, and it gives them a little more area to take up water. Okay. So let's get into our little carnations here. Is everybody caught up? Does anybody have any questions so far?
See a couple people crafting with us today.
Oh, awesome. I love it. So the little mini carns usually have a little group at the tip of them. So we're just going to use those to fill in around this arrangement. So keeping with the curve of your arrangement, you can put those, fill those right in. And 2, put the carnations in a little deeper into the arrangement. And what that does is it gives your arrangement a little depth so that everything's not on the outside. You have a little something to look at on the inside too. You'll want to make some of these a little longer and let them be out here by your roses. So you'll stick them in horizontally. And just like I said, keep with that curve of the arrangement. And you could really use anything. You don't have to use roses. You could use carnations. You could use gaburas. You could use anything really. Gaburas don't like, if you live in the city and you have fluoride in your water, gaburas they don't like fluoride. So if you're going to use gabura daisies in your arrangement, just use distilled water to soak your brick, and it'll make them last a little longer.
Hey, Don,
All right. Yes.
a question came into me. Can you reuse the wet foam, or should you use a new block for each arrangement?
Absolutely have to use a new block. They get pretty crumbled up and pretty holy afterwards anyway, but two, you would have bacteria inside the brick that could spread to the new flowers. And it's not going to take up water and hold water like it does when you fresh soak it. But that being said, you do want to water your arrangement every couple of days. You want to give it some water, and the brick will continue to soak up the water while it's wet. So all I'm doing is filling in with these guys. I just want a little bit of that carnation texture. Oops, I just broke that one. But I'm still going to use it. I'm just going to hide it down inside. So don't feel like you have to throw it away. Just put it in there, and it just gives you something to look at down deep in the arrangement. All right. Let's see if I can get this in there without breaking it now. I'm going to turn it around so I can see. There we go. Do we have Galentine's party gals out there? I have not been to a Galentine's party, but I bet it would be lots of fun. I'm just working in these white carnations. That's a little long. I just want them evenly spaced throughout the arrangement. And just remember, where you put one, you'll want to put another one so that it's symmetrical. What you do on one side, do on the other. It's just a good habit. Keeps everything symmetrical for you. And I'm going to hide a couple more of these down deep. Give your eyes something to look down into. And then we can fill in a little more with all the baby's breath and our greens. I like to put the greens in. A lot of times you put it in put the greens in first, and it kind of helps camouflage your container. But I think like when you're first learning arrangements, you should position your flowers first because it's easier to see placement without all the greens in there cluttering it up. How's everyone doing? So far, so good. We feel like we have everything evenly spaced. So far, it looks like all my white's kind of dispersed through there. Here and there. I like to even use these little guys. They're the little buds. Just gives interest, different little texture in there. Oh, let's him stand up a little taller. All right. Now, I think I'll put, let's do our greens. Get some of our greens around the base of this container. And then we'll know how much baby's breath we're gonna need. Oh, I have a few more carnations too.
The flower again that requires the distilled water.
Gerbera daisies. They're the flat, I don't know if you guys can find a picture or not, but they're just a real flat, like a disc flower, almost like a sunflower-ish, but not such a big center. So we're gonna cut this into pieces. So every few little bunches of leaves, just make a little cut, and we're gonna use these in little sections. To go around. So you're just gonna put them in so that they hang over the edge of your planter. And that's gonna camouflage your container. Little pieces. Tuck them in. And just let them hang out over the edge of your planter.
Donnie, did you say you used 4 packs of the food?
Flower food, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to
And
make sure.
Yep, you should have, well, if you have the same amount of flowers, because the 2 roses each came with 1, the 2 carnations each came with 1, and the baby's breath came with 1. The greens usually don't have food in them. So first thing, the greens go all the way around the lip of the container. And that's just going to camouflage that tape and the edge of your container. You don't want to see that in your pretty arrangement. Hmm. Oh. Maybe the focus is not good, huh? Did it fix it? It's trying. Is that better? Camera didn't get enough sleep last night. Hey, we're just cutting pieces of greenery. covering the lip of that container. Just keep cutting few leaves at a time. All the way around. It gives a nice collar around the base of the arrangement. And then off each end, you can cut a branch a little longer and take it right under your rose and let it hang out past your rose a little. And that gives you a little of the green hanging out there, nice and shiny and nice contrast against that rose.
Dondi, someone has a question. They want to
Yes.
know if the wet foam expands when it soaks in the water.
It does not. It does not expand. It just only pushes air out and lets water in. All right, and we're gonna cut this one short and use it on the opposite side under the other rose. You just want it to stick out just past the end. That might be a little too long.
Dondi, we have some questions about the water for
Okay,
the wet foam.
okay.
Is distilled water preferred all around?
It's not needed. It wouldn't hurt to use distilled just to be safe. But tap water is fine. It just with the fluoride that's in some city water, the additive, and it's not gonna like kill them right away. It just they don't tend to last as long in fluoride water.
And then how much do you add in the, next days?
The water to water your arrangement, you're just gonna want to fill it up. Just fill the container to where you can just see the water is plenty. So we have the greens all around the base. I do like to have a little of the greens in the arrangement just so that it's kind of worked through. So I'm going to take this last piece and I'm just going to add a couple pieces into the arrangement. And just let those leaves kind of hang out. And it'll just bring a little of that green up into the arrangement.
Dondi, what type of greenery is that?
Oh, shoot.
Or is there a specific kind that someone should be using or should not be using?
No, I mean, you could use, this is called, oh, shoot. Conculus, I think is how you pronounce it. I just like the big broad leaves. It just fills in real nice. But I know at the grocery they also had like cedar branches, which it wouldn't fill as much, but it would work. And there's also ruscus or Italian ruscus. I think I just saw a piece of it on somebody's arrangement. So yeah, so any of those will work. Any of the greens. Caspia would even work in here. That's kind of like a baby's breath, only it's a little more green. That would work in here. So really anything you find. I think that's pretty good. Looks pretty greened.
Oh, and Dondi, someone said that they love how the container just disappears, that the flowers are the true star.
Yes. Yes, that is the beauty of this container. It blends right in with those greens that we put around the collar. And it's very lightweight. So it's not adding weight to your arrangement. So final touch is you're gonna add some baby's breath. And this is just gonna kind of bring everything together. Give it kind of a light, airy look. Some people are not fans of baby's breath. Some are. So if you choose not to use it, you don't have to. You could use Caspia. You could use more Carnations. Any other fillers that that are out there. Austrameria, that's a nice filler. Could put some of that in here.
Dondi, we have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Someone is asking how long an arrangement would last if they needed it for an event, maybe this weekend. How many days do you think that they could reasonably do it ahead of time to prepare?
You could probably safely give it a couple days in advance. Being in the WetFōM, it's gonna, it has a food source because you soaked it in the food water. And it's, as long as you keep it watered, keep your container watered, you could do it a couple days in advance, and it's probably gonna last you a good week, sometimes longer. And a lot of times that depends on the flowers that you get from the grocery, how fresh they are, how well they've been taken care of. So when you get your flowers home, the very first thing that you should do is take them out of their sleeves. Now, if you're going to put them out right away, you should take them out of their sleeves, and you should, if you're going to put them in a vase of water, do your warm bath water, put your flower food in there, put your flowers in the vase. You're going to want to cut your stems at an angle, and that's going to let them uptake the water so that they're not sitting flat in the bottom of the container, and they won't be able to soak up water. And that warm water and getting them out of their sleeves, it's just going to help them kind of fluff and look a little nicer. If you're not going to use them right away, I would still get them out of their plastic. I would put them in water. And if you can keep them cool, if you're not going to use them that day, keep them cool. Like, even if you could get them in the refrigerator, which isn't always easy, that will help them last until your event. So I'm still just filling in with this baby's breath, just poking it in everywhere, just letting it fill in around the flowers. Turn this around and see where I've added it.
How long were you putting the stems for the baby's breath?
They're 4 to 6 inches will work for you. You want some longer ones out here by the roses on the sides. You want them to stick out a little longer. If I can find a little spot to put it, there we go. So a little longer out by the roses, and then shorter, like I said, put some, you'll want some to be way down in deep. And that just gives you something to look into the arrangement, gives you a little depth. And just anywhere that you see a hole, you don't want any of that foam in there to peek out at you. So if you look in and you see some foam, add a little bit of baby's breath right there. That'll camouflage it.
You said you purchased your fresh floral from just the local grocery store, right?
Yes.
Okay. And someone's asking if they're not the biggest fan of carnations. Is there a particular flower that you could find at the grocery store that they could supplement?
instead of the carnations? Sure. Let's see. You could do little daisies, little white mini daisies in there. You could do Alstroemeria. Alstroemeria is always a good one. They're so pretty and there's so many colors. So you could definitely find a nice color Alstroemeria that would fit in there and look nice.
Do you have any professional tips as to how to pick flowers that are maybe in better health than others, like roses, for example?
I mean, one true thing to do is to give them a little squeeze down at the base. And if they're kind of hard down at the base, you know that they're still pretty fresh. Because when they start to deteriorate, they get really soft and mushy, and the petals start to open up. They start to open up. And that's another thing, the roses, if they're tight, they're usually pretty fresh. And then just remember that it is a centerpiece and people are going to be sitting down. And that's one of my big whoops. You're up here and you're making it and it looks beautiful. But if you sit down to eat, I can see right here, I've got a bunch of holes. So just make sure you're looking at all angles of your arrangement so that everybody gets a pretty view.
Hey, Dondi, this is Felicia. And I know I've been sending Emma a lot of questions, so I missed a couple of them. But there is a question, and I'm gonna try to give you two of them really quick. One is asking, can you use the same method for a brighter bouquet? And then there's another question asking if they want to use maybe like a larger punch bowl, what would they do as far as the foam?
Okay, so yeah, larger container, you would just add more foam. So if your container, say, is, I don't know, maybe 8 by 8, you could almost just use 2 bricks. So you soak the 2 bricks separately, you put them in the container, you bevel your edges, and then you tape over the 2 bricks together. Sometimes if your container, is a shallow container, and it's not going to hold the bricks together, you could actually tape the bricks together around the outside edge and then put them in the container. That way, when you're inserting flowers into them, they're not going to split apart or come apart on you. So you would tape the 2 bricks together, set them in the container, do your bevel, excuse me, and then tape your foam into your bowl. And if your container is really deep and you put your brick in there and it's way down there, you want to build that up. So you want to add bricks up top. You want your brick to at least be inch and a half above the lip of your container. And that's going to allow you to put things in your horizontal angles and your greens around the lip of your container.
And I have one more for you.
Okay.
So, as far as the brick, there was a question asking, as you're inserting the flowers, is there enough room so that they won't be obstructing each other?
In this arrangement? Yep. Sometimes, like just when I added this one, I had a hard time finding a spot, but usually if you angle it a different direction or you move it one way or the other, you'll find a spot in there somewhere to be able to tuck it in. This is this size brick can definitely accept this many flowers. It could probably accept more. And then the bouquet, I didn't answer the bouquet. So would they use the same design style, I guess you could say, with a bouquet? Kind of. It's not going to be as long. You would still use your rounded form. So you would do your height and your width and your length like you would on your bouquet so that you can keep your shape of it. But basically, yeah, you would use the same method. So we're still filling in. How's everybody looking? Do I have any holes over there? So yeah, so when I look down here, I see a few more that I could fill in.
Dondi, if someone is using a clear container,
Mhm.
could they use something like marbles or rocks to surround the foam?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. You could use any kind of a vase filler, or you could actually use plant leaves, and they pin plant leaves around the edge of the brick, and that kind of camouflages it with the greenery. But you would do it the same way in glass. You would still tape it. They do have clear anchor tape. They have clear anchor tape, so that if you're using glass, you don't have green tape on the edge of your container. All right. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to use any of the rest of that, but I do want to show you guys real quick. Do we have a little bit of time? A little bit of time. One fun thing to add in here are these cute little bunny tails. And we don't need to put them on a pick. I have these wired wood picks. I'm going to show you the to put on the, if you wanted to add in tool, but it's just a little wired wood pick. But because this WetFōM is so soft, you can actually add your drieds right in to the foam. And this is just a fun little add-in. If you like drieds and you want a fun little texture. I don't know if you've watched my videos, you know I'm kind of a freak about these little bunny tails. I just think they're just so pretty and so cute. So I'm just cutting little bunches of 5, about 6, 8 inches long, and just adding them in here and there as little accents, a little texture. Oh, having a hard time here.
Now, Dondi, are there other alternatives if someone didn't have an Aquatainer available?
You could use anything, literally anything that would hold water. And even if it doesn't hold water, you could put plastic liner in there and use it with the plastic liner. So really any vessel that holds water you could use. So you can kind of get the idea of what some little bunny tails would look like in there. And then another thing, if you didn't have a bunch of filler, like if you didn't have baby's breath, or you didn't want to use the carnations like the one person said, you could cut little lengths of tulle. I'd say about 8 inches. And just fold them in half. Add it to this little pick. Wrap it around. add it to the pick, and then this could actually be a filler. So if you didn't like baby's breath, or if you wanted to change out the carnations, can you kind of see it in there? But that would be fun. It would be cute around the edge maybe instead of the green branches or green filler. But yeah, just could be ribbon. It's a lot of pretty ribbons. You could do this. You could add them to these picks and put little ribbon tails peeking out here and there in your arrangement. And then I think we have a link to our next class that Miss Emma will share with you so you can see what's coming up. It's one of our new products at Michael's. It's called a FloraCheers, and it's a WetFōM disc that sits on top of a champagne bottle, a wine bottle, a liquor bottle, and then you give a gift of the wine, but then they get the flower arrangement as a bonus. You drink the wine, you put the flower arrangement on a candlestick, and you have an arrangement and a beverage. Are there any questions?
I have some on my end.
Okay.
There is a question. If you really could show how you, in the beginning when you did the water, what kind of container you may have used when you first soaked the water. And as far as that, the food, was it the package that come with the fresh flowers?
Yes. Yep. So every package of flowers will come with a packet of flower food, and the little packets will do, the little packets, this size packet does 1 quart of water. So the container that I used, these are like the ones that you get at the Walmart or whatever. The plastic shoe boxes that you store your shoes in. And it just happens to hold a gallon of water. So a gallon of warm bath water in your container and 4 packets of flower food. The 1 quart flower food packets.
And then there's a small business question.
Okay.
Pretty much, how much would you charge for a arrangement like that?
That's a pretty good size arrangement. It's got a lot in it. I'm gonna say like 85, probably easy. Yep.
I think that's all the questions I have on my end. So I do apologize, Emma, if I may have asked a question that you may have already have available for her as well.
No, that's okay. As long as we get them all answered, that's what counts. Even if we answer them twice. All right. Well, I guess if there are no more questions, I think we're done. Did we get our next class up? Okay. All right. So that's it, guys. Happy Valentine's. Thanks for joining us.